Okay, let's look at the testing performance of McLaren in the testing at Bahrain in 2023. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This looks bad, and all of them look sad. Zach Brown said that they'd missed their development targets, and you could be hyperbolic about that, but it's certainly not the biggest portent. If you put the chicken guts on the bottom of the boat, they will certainly spell a difficult battle ahead. The team look glum. Norris looks noticeably angry and glib and short in interviews. The team just don't seem to be saying anything reassuring. Their new team boss said that he is realistic about the present and optimistic about the future. And that sounds like every new middle manager that I've ever worked with coming into a new position in my professional career. I am not going to be betting any of my money on a McLaren title push, which is sad. This is McLaren. I've grown up with McLaren being a title contending team. The title, the championship, is the aim for McLaren. They won a driver title as recently as 2008. They had arguably the fastest car as recently as 2012. The target is the title, and it looks like for the 10th year in a row, they're going to fail to bring a title fight to the books. Catman, lay this out for us. Give us an optimistic spin if you can.
Oh, that is a hard ask.
Yeah, sorry. That was unfair.
McLaren do very well at developing through a season. And they apparently, so as Trumpets alluded to earlier on, they said that they realized they were going down the wrong development track, but well too late to actually do anything about it for their launch spec car. So they're going down a different track at the factory and going to bring not a B spec car, although I don't know what a B spec car is unless it's something that's gone down a totally different directive path. In for Baku, I believe, is when they're going to bring that in. So we'll see if they have a sudden jump in performance then. But don't forget, of course, it will be totally different to the car they're currently driving. So it will be untested and it won't be easy to drive. So I don't have high hopes for them this year. That's for sure.
It makes me really lose faith in McLaren because we're always talking about they're going to be the ones to break away from the midfield and be the ones to challenge the top three. And if they could get manufacturer status, for example, then they might be able to fight for titles. And when you see things like this, you realize that they just have actual more fundamental issues that lie within that team first. And of course, they had an awful test last year. And if you want your positive spin, then they did manage to score a podium in the third race of the season at Imola or something like that. So, maybe they can turn it around. But it seems to be the really awkward issue of having a really draggy car, which of course then means that you have to take downforce off the car so that you don't get absolutely mullered on the straights. So they're not even able to utilize all the downforce that car has at the moment. And I don't know about you, but I think Otmar Safnauer might have a little wry smile just watching Oscar Piastri driving that car in the early stages of this season.
Well, I think I would agree with you on that, Chris. I mean, if I'm Piastri, I might be asking myself, have I jumped on the wrong horse here?
Yes.
Because, I mean, Alpine certainly didn't look great, but they didn't look anything like the fairly obvious disaster of McLaren. And let's be clear, the issue for them, one of the biggest issues were what they call the wheel brows that sit over the front wheels. Structurally, they were unsound, and they spent loads of time trying to adapt them so they could simply go out and run laps. And that is a very big echo of the problem that they had with the brakes. Now, McLaren has told us, it's not a huge change, but they have some very aerodynamically sensitive surfaces. They're bringing updates, and as Catman mentioned, by Azerbaijan, we should expect to see them. They think will solve this problem. But what I didn't get a sense of from Norris, who was very, is moody acceptable these days? That's what I'm going to use. He seemed kind of moody in the garage with the car. Is that those fundamental issues he was talking about with the car wanting solved were solved. Maybe this update will solve it. Maybe it won't. But it's hanging over the head of McLaren that if they want to be at the sharp end, they need to fix this and they need to demonstrate it. But it's also a bad look for a team that's talking to Honda that they show up 2 seasons in a row thoroughly unprepared, unless this has been pointed out in the chat. This is just like ultimate troll level from the team.
You could say that, but last year, as Chris said, they had an awful testing session. But the problem is they looked fast in that test, just fragile, and then they dropped away. Whereas now they're not looking fast or reliable. And that's not what you want from a team that is, as you said, wooing Honda to come back and join them.
I said sugarcoat it, Catman.
Okay, I'm gonna make it worse.
Okay, well,
so
you're like, you're a McLaren fan in general.
Absolutely,
yeah.
McLaren.
And so, where's the hope though? Where's the hope? Because if there's hope, no one has told Lando Norris because he looks fed up. And there was a really awkward thing with Ted Kravitz, who is one of the most fun, wonderful analysts and interviewers, just trying to engage with Lando Norris in not a cringy way, like some of the other presenters do, but in a kind of, I understand you, I understand how to get the best out of you way. And Norris just all but told him to shut up on several occasions. Man's not happy.
He mugged him off at the end, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ted made a joke and he just went, right, I'm off, and just walked off. That is not a happy Lando Norris.
Yeah.
Controversial opinion here that I'm going to get absolutely destroyed for. Are the drivers the problem in this team? So Lando Norris.
What's going on here?
Right, here
careful.
we go.
These are the opinions of Chris Catman
Spanners at MissedApex.net.
Chris Catman Turner.
Okay, I haven't pre-warned the panel with these opinions.
Okay, let's go for it. No, have it. Let's have it.
Let's go strong.
Hang on, I just want to make sure the live stream can see all of the panel's reactions. Please carry on.
So you've got Lando Norris, who has had to adapt his driving style from being a rookie to a very difficult car that has got very certain characteristics. Carlos Sainz, for example, said that when he came to the team, he found it very hard to adapt to. Lando is sitting there going, right, this car works for me. It's absolutely fine. I can make it work. Has he got the appropriate feedback to be able to make that car progress through the field? You would have thought that being paired with Daniel Ricciardo, who's had many years at a title-winning team, might have helped. But the problem is he's now gone and is replaced with an absolute rookie, Oscar Piastri. And are the two of them going to be able to drive this car and this team forward in the right direction? If we're playing a game of whose fault is it, the drivers might have to sit somewhere high up in that.
So I don't think it's a terrible a point as, because you're not saying like these are bad drivers. You're saying this is now a team that is being led by Lando Norris. Who was at McLaren when he first went there? Was it him and Carlos Sainz?
Yeah.
Together. Then Sainz left, Ricciardo came in, so they had a driver that was relatively new and a driver that was all at sea, and now they've got Lando Norris leading the team and leading development. And if you listen to, a lot of people, but like say specifically Will Buxton during the testing, talking about how Lewis Hamilton took a lot of the testing responsibility and development on his shoulders in 2022, sacrificing results and being the leader to direct the development of the team. Is Lando Norris that panel? What do we think? Who's got an in on this, Matt?
Well, I'm not sure I have an in on it, but the problem you have with certain drivers, and I'm going to reference Michael Schumacher here, is that they will simply drive around problems and be equally as fast. There was a classic issue on the Ferrari back in the day, and it was him and Eddie Irvine. And he was fast. Irvine wasn't. They found the problem, fixed it, and suddenly Irvine was as fast as him. And when they asked Schumacher about it, he's like, oh, yeah, the car's more stable, but it's no faster. So the question isn't so much, can they lead the development, but are they the kind of drivers who can give the engineers the information they need to fix these sorts of problems?
Chris, are you going to let this slander continue? Lando Norris, one of the most prepared young drivers in the world, someone who put the highly fancied Daniel Ricciardo to the sword. Are you going to let this stand?
I think that Lando looks miserable because he's entering his 5th season in Formula One and still doesn't have a car capable of winning races. And B, that you do not spend as long in the McLaren junior program that he did without learning how to give proper feedback on a car and how to play the role that isn't just driving the car. Because if there's one team that's going to be a bit of a stickler for things like that, is going to be McLaren.
Well, I wasn't expecting to end this segment on Catman hates Lando Norris, but look, it's a different perspective, and that is one of the teams I'm most curious about. I am curious to see, do McLaren turn up at Bahrain for race one with something, or, as it looks now, nothing?